The previous episode ended with Selena feeling dizzy, and suddenly she remembered someone telling her, "Only the wine from the Levant region, and you should only drink 1 glass. Do you understand?" And Selena replied, "Yes, I'll keep that in mind." When we return to the present, the papers Paris had given Selena to remind her, since she lied to him and said she had lost her memory, fall from her hands as she says, after seeing these memories, what was that? Selena's real memory? And she was about to fall, but Paris went and caught her, asking, "Are you okay?" So she thought to herself, "I didn't do that on purpose." But as a result, she took Selena's real body, and even her husband and her life. But what about Selena's real spirit, the one who had everything taken from her? What if she was still in this body? "Here," Paris anxiously asked her, "are you all right?" Then he turned and looked at the papers, saying, "Is this because of those papers?" There was nothing special about the papers, just information about the life of an ordinary, illegitimate, aristocratic child. And most importantly, that life isn't even her real life. But he understood and thought to himself, if this is the problem, Selena called out to him and said, "Paras." Then she turned to him and asked, "Do you really think I'm beautiful?" And Paris replied, "That's true." So Selena was silent. When Paris saw her looking sad after this answer, he thought to himself, "Isn't that the right answer? She was happy before. I can't believe her attitude changed so suddenly. I'll give her the answer she wants. I want to help her relax." So shyly, he told her, "I have something I need to do in the city. Do you want to come with me?" Then Selena said, "It's a city, isn't it?" Paris bent towards her, extending his hand. She felt both astonished and embarrassed by his reaction. Then she gave him her hand and took it as she said to him, "I'll go." He was surprised and thought to himself, "Right away," but Selena pulled him along as she thought to herself, "People are so mean. I know he's not being nice to me because of my appearance. How could I ask such a stupid question? I'm depressed because this isn't my real face, and I'm jealous of the real owner of this body, and I'm worried. Amidst all of this, I feel guilty for stealing someone else's life. So when Yumi's spirit disappeared, I was sad, because Paris didn't notice. And the moment Paris interacted with me, that feeling completely disappeared. This wonderful man is trying to make me happy by looking at me this way." So I held his hands tightly and said determinedly, "Yes, I'll think about the future later. And I don't know what will happen in the future. But the person I love now is Paris." Then she turned to him and held his hands, getting so close to him that her chest was touching his arms. She thought to herself, "I'm definitely going to date this guy." So Paris felt very shy and nervous and started to sweat. He said, "Your chest?" When Selena asked, "But what's happening in the city?" Paris thought to himself, "I'm the great Duke of the North. What could possibly be happening in the city?" She seemed unhappy, so I made up an excuse to change her mood. Then he looked at her and continued thinking, "I can't be honest with her." Then he turned his face away shyly and said, "Since we share a bedroom, maybe a rug that suits your taste." But suddenly he felt that what he said wasn't a good excuse, so he lowered his head and thought nervously, "This doesn't match the excuse I gave when I said I had something to do. Won't she find out everything?" But Selena grabbed his arm and smiled, saying, "That's a good idea. I'd also like to buy some soft blankets." So Paris thought to himself, "I can't believe I gave her such a ridiculous answer." And at the same time, she was thinking to herself, "We'll go see you next time, sister." She was referring to Paris's sister, but when she went out with Paris from the castle, she found her sister in front of them. And here, Paris angrily thought to himself, "Go away." He meant his sister. But she went towards Selena and said happily, "You came to the city too. Have you finished packing your belongings?" And her sister replied, "Yes." So Selena said happily, "I was thinking of visiting you, but I stopped because I thought you might not have finished packing yet. I'm so happy to see you by chance like this." Then Paris's sister smiled and said, "Well, since it's time for food, would you like to join me?" And she thought to herself, since you hate this so much, I want to annoy you even more. Paras looked at Selina, who agreed happily and said, yes, it would be my honor. And so they went and ate together. During this time, Paras was taking care of Selina and putting food on her plate. It was said of Paras that he was famous for carrying weapons, but was also naturally strategic. So he thought to himself about Selina. From what I've seen of her behavior so far, it's clear that she loves food, even though her stomach is small and she can't eat much. In other words, the time we spend eating together is an important moment to gain points. That's why he kept putting a lot of food on her plate. But suddenly, Selina stopped him and said, that's enough, so stop now. Surprised, Paras asked her, doesn't it suit your taste? His sister looked at him and thought to herself, that bastard. At that moment, Selina told Paras, no, I ate it because it was delicious. So Paras said to her, eat plenty of food. His sister thought to herself, it's obvious she's feeling heavy. It seems he likes Selina a little, but he only treats her like a wife. He's the only one who feels nervous. However, he looks pitiful when he does that. So she said to him, Paras, I've noticed this before. Why do you use a title with your wife? They looked at her in surprise, and she continued, I understand it's embarrassing because it's a political marriage, but if you act like that, people will say it's because there are no children in the family yet, so from now on, always call her darling. He felt embarrassed and looked at her, thinking nervously to himself, what is this? Why is that bitch saying this helpful thing to me? Then her sister continued, Selina, thank you for putting up with that man who lacks a lot. And if you have any regrets, tell me, even if it makes you look naive. A witch is still a witch. Then she winked at her and thought to herself, I'll step in and scold him. She might suspect my intentions, but there's nothing wrong with winning Selina's favor. Selina felt happy and thought to herself, my sister-in-law is on my side. So she said, yes, I feel like we're a family now. Then she looked at Paras and said, isn't that right, darling? Paras looked at her shyly because the word had pierced his heart. Here, her sister started to remember and said to herself, a few years ago in a cafe in the capital, there was a man who apologized to me, saying, oh my God, I'm so sorry, ma'am. Did I hurt you? When I first met my current husband, the Emperor, I thought it would be fun to use him. I decided to take revenge on the Emperor who drove my father to death. I gave up my heart and decided to use everything. I hunted witches as much as I could, from ghosts to the Empress of the Empire, and even exploited this man. When her husband smiled at her and said, I truly have nothing. It's like a dream to be able to marry you. She looked at him in astonishment and continued thinking to herself, because I believed and acted boldly, even after dealing with everyone and many years have passed, the nobles of the capital still fear me. Even my own blood brother warns against me. But Selina's eyes, those that show no fear, no impure desire, they are similar. So she wished and said to herself, I wish she weren't a witch. When they finished eating and Selina went out with them, she said happily, it was a wonderful meal. Without Selina noticing, her sister gave him the medicine, saying to herself, Paras, this is the medicine I promised you. It contains nearum. You'd better think twice about whether to drink it or not. Here, we understand that nearum is a deadly poison that even a single drop can kill dragons. But Paras looked at her and smiled, saying, aren't you confident in the medicine you made? But she sighed and told him, you won't die. Do it yourself. Selina called out to him, saying, darling, hurry up and come here. So Paras turned his face 180 degrees and said to her, got it. Then he grabbed the medicine tightly and looked at it. Then he went with Selina and his sister followed them. When they left her behind, she said to herself, okay. Then she started to remember, saying, shortly after Selina arrived in the north, I received a telegram from the maid, Anna. In it, she was saying to her, a bewitching scent. A week before Archduke Paris Bilius' wedding, Nevis's report. Nevis is a high-level ghost, so she can make her own decisions and has a clear area. Additionally, she can smell her natural enemy, a witch. And if it's Nevis's report, it's almost 99% certain. And from there I knew that Selina was a witch, so I understood that there was more than one witch in this city, which is Paris's city. Therefore, she looked at Selina and thought to herself, I don't know her true intentions, but she's not a bad woman. Then, in anger, she said, To be honest, Selina is obedient. She sighed and continued, People like me and Paras, when they see such a small, harmless monster, they naturally want it. And suddenly, she called out to them, Paras, Selina. When they turned to her, she said to them, I have other things to do, so let's part ways now. But Selina said nervously, What? That's too bad. I thought we were going to see the goods together. But her sister smiled and said, You can see them before me and we can go out again next time. Selina happily said to her, Yes, we'll definitely go out next time. Her sister said, Okay. But before leaving, she patted Paras on the shoulder and said, And do it. She continued to herself, saying, Don't act like a fool. Then she bid them farewell and left. While Paris was feeling angry, Selina happily bid her farewell, saying, Take care of yourself. Here, Paris said to himself nervously, That witch, she's so evil. And Selina looked at him and said, Shall we go? Paris blushed with embarrassment and then said to her, All right, my dear. Then they went together, and he tried to hold her hand.